Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dash Trader Newsroom. Markets remain volatile as traders and investors digest earnings and geopolitical uncertainty. Let's jump right in. My name is Michael DeJoy. I'm the Director of Educational Services here at Dash Trader, joined by my co-host, Jill Molandrino, Global Markets Reporter at the Nasdaq market site. Jill, how are you?
Good, doing well. Mike.
Fantastic. Let's jump right in and see what's on the wall of worry as another earnings season comes to a close. We saw that Walmart, basically had decent holiday growth, but fell short of estimates. Some of the other retailers had trouble as well. Jill, what's in store for the retailers?
I think, Mike, it's the narrative remains the same regardless of what the economic environment is like. Retail is a sector that there's going to be haves and have-nots. As trends change, so do trends within the retail space. I think looking at it at a higher level when we talk about the K-shaped recovery and continuing concerns with, we know the top 10 to 20% are fueling 60% of spend, but it's also, the 80% and how their spending habits are influencing retailers such as Walmart as an example. We saw the significant run that Walmart had, and I think a lot of it was due to the execution over, with their strategy over the past 10 years and really thinking about it as a technology leader within the space. I think it's encouraging that they're continue to invest, but I think the bigger story is earnings season overall, where we're seeing companies actually perform quite well in beating estimates. I think looking forward out and forward guidance is really what's going to move the needle. And that's where investors have concern. And of course, when you're comparing it to the consumer, the outlook is a bit fuzzy there. I think it's important to look at what consumers are spending on, how they're spending it, how they're leveraging debt, buy now, pay later types of services. So, I think it's how complex the environment is and how well the consumer is going to hold up.
Yeah, great. Some great points there. Let's take it into another area that we've seen quite a bit of news about in the in recent days, certainly since the end of the last quarter in 2025. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of concerns about AI being a disruptor to the entire software sector. And software stocks are pretty much, they're already in a downtrend. Any new information on what's going on with this software sell-off and AI being a disruptor to the software sector?
I think there's a couple of things here. We have looked at software as really the driver of the economy. We know what these technologies are capable of doing, but I think a lot of spend is also shifting into the hardware, right? We understand they're building out data centers. Storage, of course, needs to be built out. So perhaps it's a shift in spending and where resources are being allocated. I personally think that the rotation that we saw was overdone based on how it was perceived with AI taking over complete tech stacks. I don't think that's going to happen. Certainly not in the short term. Think about our industry, Mike, financial services, healthcare, where they're heavily regulated. You are not going to blow up your whole tech stack and put it out on an open source type of model when no one in our space is going to do that. And you're just not going to rip apart these complex infrastructures and put everything out on, a model. Perhaps in the long term, but certainly not in the short term. I think that this was a bit overdone, and perhaps it's, we should be thinking about the hardware and the operational side of AI.
Some good insights there. Well, let's move on to our geopolitical concerns and our never-ending onion of politics. And I say onion because every layer you peel an onion, you want to cry more. So it looks like we have a trade deficit the trade deficit is still at $901 billion in 2025, which is massive. I mean, basically it's $1 trillion trade deficit. So the Trump tariffs have not made a dent. So you want to talk on that first?
Well, there's a couple of things here. I think the trade deficit is just a small part of that. It's really fiscal policy in general that we need to fix and not just focus on this one particular vertical. I mean, not to sound flippant, but it doesn't even, we're what, $39 trillion of debt on the balance sheet. I'm not quite sure that the deficit
Yeah.
is going to be the answer to all of those problems. It's hard to come to any sort of agreement as it relates to spending on the legislative level. And I also think because there's just so much news happening at once, you don't even have the opportunity to digest it or even debate the merits of it. We just got news that potentially there's going to be some movement in the Middle East. I'm not I'm not quite sure that was on everyone's bingo card this week. So it just seems like you're flooding the zone. You're drinking through a fire hose and trying to digest all this news, in addition to the amount of economic data that we've had come out over the past couple of weeks.
Yep, you mentioned we are $39 trillion in debt as far as the federal budget deficit goes. And the latest news is that Trump will make a decision whether or not to attack Iran in the next 10 days. Right. So now that just sets another news event in the next 2 weeks that the market needs to digest and see how it's going to affect oil prices, right? Because obviously oil prices spiked on the news that Trump is going to make a decision as to what he's going to do in Iran in the next 10 days. So that brings us to another news item that you are quite expert in. So Apple is being sued for the failure to stop sexual abuse materials on iCloud. Could this be opening a can of worms, so to speak, the proverbial can of worms for big tech? So let's just weigh in on that. I mean, this is big privacy. I mean, this is privacy issues across the board.
It is. And it's interesting you bring that up, Mike, because it is the 30th anniversary of the Telecom Act of 1996, which, of course, Section 230, which moderates content, is a part of that particular piece of legislation. It's interesting here in the US how we view privacy versus how the EU, as for an example, views it. It's more of a human right versus how we approach it here. So my thoughts on having something that's cohesive, I don't think we'll see that in the foreseeable future. I think part of the challenge as it relates to US privacy law, once you start moderating to a certain extent, it can also be looked at as censorship, right? So there's a lot of fine lines there. And the way that these platforms are protected, still under Section 230, it's, they're hosting the content. They're not the arbiters of truth, if you will. So that's really where the issue lies with privacy. I think another issue is the language around your policy rights as a consumer, even though it shouldn't be in legalese, it is very dense. And you're seeing a lot of privacy. Like when you think about it, check your email and you see LinkedIn's updated its privacy policy. Google, Stitch Fix, I just got something. All of these different companies that you interact with on a relatively regular basis, they're updating their privacy policies. And there's a couple of reasons why. LinkedIn, as an example, is using your data to train its LLM models, right? And you have to opt out specifically for that. There are other ones as it relates to relationships with third parties and other vendors. And the thing is, you have to be able to understand that language and understand how to protect your data. And it's not easy to do. It's not a very obvious thing here in the US. I think what's happening with these larger companies, how important data is to their models. Data is the commodity. Nothing is free, right? Instagram, none of it's free. That's how these models derive revenue and so forth. So it's not like there's a huge lobby out there to enforce more data privacy when every single industry is built on that. So it's a very existential argument when you think about privacy and so forth.
Well, what strikes me as interesting is that all these companies are American companies. They are all complying with European Union standards, which are stricter than the United States' standards. So, I mean, it gives them a model as to what to live up to. They all have, clients that are using their software in the EU. But the United States is more lax on privacy. And I think that's something, I mean, as a US consumer, I certainly hope that we move more in the direction of protecting privacy. I mean, I always say privacy is the new luxury. But in the United States, your data is for sale.
It is the commodity. What's interesting, France's commission, right, as it relates to GDPR, they they've sued Google a number of times. One of them, one of the reasons why, making it difficult to reject cookies. And that's what I was talking about before. In the US, we have opt out.
Mm-hmm.
In
Europe, you have to opt in.
And that is a huge difference. You're starting to see more websites where you more obvious choice is presented to you. But what happens is there's also consumer fatigue where you're like, accept, just because you want to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And there's empirical research to support that. So I think this is a conversation that's only going to intensify, whether you're thinking about privacy by design, consumer privacy, advocacy, security. I think that's going to be where the competitive edge lies, and then data governance overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that data governance could be a huge can of worms for big tech. I mean, because they pretty much had a free-for-all with our data.
For any company, as an example, look how much data the companies such as you and I work for.
Absolutely.
That we process. Yeah. I mean, we're in exchange, and governance is, I think, governance, cyber, and privacy is going to be where the competitive advantage is.
Data link.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Right on my. Oh. It's right on my. It says data link Nasdaq.
Yeah.
on the free gift that Nasdaq gave me on my laptop cover. I mean, this is all about data. So.
Well, I mean, the good thing is for companies that we work for in the financial services space, we are heavily regulated and the most competitive probably out of any industry. So it behooves you to have a strong governance policy in place.
Absolutely. Any other unforeseen risks that might be on the horizon that you have has come across your desk in the last 2 weeks?
I would say really what we're focusing on now is not necessarily the use cases that these emerging technologies like AI, what they're useful for. We understand that. We understand the technology and so forth. What we're hearing more about is, again, privacy, governance, cybersecurity, AI on the chain, and so forth. In addition to that, having conversations around how executive teams and the boards are executing on these strategies, really focusing on that shift management and building that culture from the top down of solid governance. I think you're going to start to hear more about that, and that's what investors are going to be looking for as companies figure out how they're going to benchmark their investments.
Sounds good. Well, before I let you go, it seems like crypto and gold and silver has leveled off a little bit. Any news on that front that has come across your desk?
What's so interesting is, Mike, and we have brought this up a number of times over the past 2 to 3 years, is how you're seeing these asset classes move in tandem, hitting all-time highs, right? And then you feel like you have that inflection point. We spoke about that 2 weeks ago, right, with the silver dealer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're all moving in the same direction when they're typically not. They move, inverse. That has been the pattern over, let's call it, past 3 years ish. It's stood out to me, and I think all for different types of reasons.
Yep. Very interesting observation. Yeah, certainly a very interesting observation. Well, Jill, until the next time, I will see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Sounds good. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Be well. All right. We're going to jump in and take a look at the charts. Okay, here we go. We have my Dash Trader up. And let's take a look at what's going on in the markets. Okay, QQQ. Let's take a look at the markets first. We had a little bit of a sell-off today. I mean, basically, here we are on the Qs. I'm just going to make this a little wider. All right, so here we are. We have a little bit of a downtrend forming. We have a high, lower high, another lower high, but we have not taken out this prior double bottom at 595. If we do take out the 595 bottom, we'll probably slide on down to 585. That's on the QQQ, which is representative of the Nasdaq 100. Let's take a look at the SPY. SPY is a high and a failure to make a new high. It kind of got rejected at 690. We have an N-shaped top forming. We have the moving averages that are stacked in a bearish direction, meaning that the slower 20-period moving average is now on top of the 10-period moving average. We have a triple, almost quadruple bottom at 675, which would be major support. If that number breaks, if we slide below that number, it will be a downhill slide, pretty much down to 650 on the that's the next major level of support. So 675, we have a small level of support at 670, and then we have a straight down move to 650. That would be a big drop on the SPY. Let's take a look at Apple. So Apple, you can see it's got a sell set up after a failure to make a new high. It was trying to get up above 267.50, got rejected. We're kind of in clear air down to 255 with this lawsuit. Probably it has more downside. The overall chart on Apple is starting to look bearish. Microsoft, MSFT. Oops, didn't type that right. MSFT. Microsoft, probably the best, most indicative of the software sector, which we know has been soft. The software sector has been soft. I think that's a little bit, kind of funny. But the software sector certainly has been weak, and Microsoft is indicating still lower, even though it might be overdone the move. This is still in the midst of a downtrend, and certainly would be something I'd want to stay away from. Let's take a look at Tesla. We like to look at the Magnificent Seven. Tesla is really in this kind of strange nether zone. It's not really going here or there. So nothing really interesting to say there. But if it does break below 390, Tesla probably will move down to 350. Let's take a look at, we have Tesla. Let's take a look at NFLX. We'll take a look at Walmart. Netflix, clear downtrend. Looks terrible. Amazon, AMZN. Amazon chart does not look good as well. Certainly looking weak in Amazon. Let's bring up GLD. Let's take that's Walmart. Let's take a look at WMT. Walmart peaked out at 135, and it's certainly starting to pull in. Not looking that good on Walmart, but obviously we knew there was some negative news on that in the retailers today. Let's take a look at gold, GLD. Really, almost looks like a bull pennant. Could go either way. So whichever way that gold breaks out is the direction that it'll go. SLV looking more like, as it certainly got it more accentuated than gold did, but now it's looking like it's a little bit more bearish than gold. GBTC, which is Bitcoin, still kind of still sliding, but not looking quite as bad as it was. On that note, I'm just going to bring my charts up one more time, if I can do this without. All right, well, on that note, going to be at the Traders for Our Cause conference in Miami next week. If any of you traders are going to be out there, I'd love to sit down with you and show you a little bit about Dash Trader. That if you're not using it already, I'd love to show you Dash and how we can help you with your trading. If not, stay up to date with all things Dash by signing up to our monthly newsletter emails. Simply fill out the form at the bottom of the webpage at www.dashtrader.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Dash Trader TV. We have some new videos coming out soon. We also have our Dash Newsroom reminders. Make sure that you click that little bell so that you get all the reminders from new newsroom episodes. Follow us on social media at LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you very much. Till next time, trade well.